All right then, we'll make a start. It's 11:05. Those of you who are late, like myself, you've had an opportunity to join. So I'll hand you over to the IT team for a moment just to give some instructions regarding the translation and so forth on how to use the translation facility and how to use the chat box.
Good morning, everybody. Os hoffech webinar yma drwy'r gyfrwng y Gymraeg, os allwch chi ddewis yr iaith German o dan...
So if you want this through the medium of Welsh, if you choose German at the bottom of the screen.
Translation for this webinar, if you can choose interpretation and English at the bottom. And if you have any technical problems, if you can put them in the chat box. For any questions that you have, if you can use the Q&A section on the bottom of your screen. I bawb sy'n cael trafferthion technegol o gwbl.
If you have any IT problems, if you just use the chat box, and the same if you use the chat box for any questions you have. Is the translation working for those on the webinar side? Yes. I hope you can all hear the translation okay. We'll start things off then. I'm Professor Williams. I'm the chair of this partnership. I'm also a lecturer in environmental management in Bangor University. And yes, on behalf of the entire team, I'd like to welcome you all here very warmly. And I'd also like to thank you for joining us on a Wednesday morning like this. Today is a day for celebration, to celebrate a new exciting scheme for a very important and exciting area. But before that, I think it would be appropriate for us just to take a moment to think about the friends and family of Alun Owen, one of the residents of the Carneddau area, whom we lost very untimely last week. I'm sure I speak on everybody's behalf, saying that the area has been shocked by this sad news. And also, I'm sure that we all send our heartfelt condolences to Alan's family and friends. Thanks. Yes, so welcome here to this launch. I'm sure you've heard quite a bit about this scheme in the press, on the media. Maybe you've read about it. Maybe you've even been part of the hard work that's led up to today. I know that many people will be joining this webinar. Some of you are here as individuals, some here represent societies, organizations, and so forth. There's a very wide cross-section here. You're all here, and we're all here because we are interested in this project, because the Carneddau is very close to our hearts. Of course, you will have an opportunity to hear, that's the intention of today, to launch the scheme and to hear a bit about what the aspirations and intentions of the scheme are as we progress over the next 5 years. And I know one job that the chair always has is to give the word of thanks. And a scheme like this doesn't just appear out of thin air. You don't just turn up to work on a Monday morning and then there's a scheme in place. A huge amount of work has gone into making today happen and to achieving this scheme. But first of all, of course, we need finances. And I'm sure you've noticed the logo behind me here. We are exceptionally grateful to the Lottery Heritage Fund this scheme would not have been possible without the fact that they have contributed £1.7 million to achieve this 5-year scheme. So we are truly grateful for them, that they see value in this scheme and value to the Carneddau area, and that they are actually just as excited as we are about the future years. Can I also thank all the partners? There are many of them, and you will be hearing about some of them later on today, but can I thank all the partners that have contributed to get us to this point? And also, can I thank all the individuals? There are many, many of you individuals in the various communities in the Carneddau area that have helped to shape this scheme, to say what you want to get out of this scheme. I think that there's one person who's worked exceptionally hard to make today happen since 2 or 3 years. That's John Roberts. We want to mention him specifically. John works for the National Park Authority, and he's the one who led on the development period over the past 2 to 3 years. So we're very grateful to John. John, thank you for your work, and I hope that we'll see the fruits of your labor over the next 5 years. Then, of course, John has done a lot of the manual work, so to speak, but then he's transferred the reins over to a team of staff, and you'll have an opportunity to meet that team today. They've arranged today's event, and many of them are behind the scenes, as they say. Many people who have been here to make sure that today runs smoothly, and you will have an opportunity to meet them as we progress and to understand what the various individuals do. So, Carneddau, if you think of the Carneddau, what comes to your mind? Maybe you want to jot 5 words down that come to your head when you think of a Carneddau. What would those 5 words be? It's a very special area to all of us. That's why we're here today. From a personal point of view, I'm going to say maybe 3 things that come to my mind when I think about a Carneddau. First of all, why this area is so important to me. First of all, my work in the university in Bangor, I spent quite a bit of time in Henfais. That's the farm that Bangor University has in Abergwyngregin. I do some teaching work, I bring students over. Students from all over the world have a taste and an experience of going up to Henfais. And we discuss land use in a Carneddau, but also, of course, we do a lot of research work in Henfais, and we look at issues pertaining to land management, climate change, issues relevant to the Carneddau today and to the Carneddau in the future. So the area is important to me in that respect, and the strong link I have with the Carneddau through my work. And I've been able to spend some time, and I've been able to notice the habitat and the birds, the vegetation, the ponies that we see on the Carneddau. I can draw up a long list, actually. The habitats of a Carneddau are very important to me. And lastly, the people and all the things linked to people. So we've talked about habitats for wildlife, but it's also a habitat for people. People who live in these places today, but also all the history intertwined with this, the heritage, the cultural aspect, the place names. It is so important to safeguard these place names forever, because once they're gone, it's too late, and a huge amount of wealth will be lost. So that's what it means to me, and I'm sure you people, maybe you can do your own list, but we'll have an opportunity to hear from a few minutes actually what a Carneddau means to various people. Well, of course, we all join today over Zoom. I hadn't even heard of Zoom until March. Now, I know everything about it. And there's no two ways about it, actually. The project has started at a very challenging time. COVID has impacted us all, of course, in many different ways. And the lockdown period has also changed our way of life and the way of our working. And I guess in some ways permanently, they say that there's a silver cloud, there's a silver lining to every cloud. And I think that some good has come out of the past few months. People have taken a step back, have thought and have realized the importance of the landscape around them. Maybe people are realizing for the first time ever nature and land, and hopefully this will be one very good thing that will come out of COVID. There's a brilliant opportunity through this scheme to help to safeguard the particular characteristics of this area, things that make the Carneddau unique. We can use different methods, innovative methods of working. We're here talking, cooperating, supporting one another to support and safeguard and celebrate the Carneddau. It's a good story to say here. We need to publish that story and safeguard that story for the generations to come. So challenges through COVID, but once again, there are challenges. And personally, I'm a half full glass person, not a half empty glass. So we ask you and encourage you actually to ask some questions. Rob already mentioned there's a chat box, and we will be drawing up a list of questions from that chat list for a question and answer session at the end of this hour. So we encourage people to ask questions. Maybe we won't get around to answer them all, but any questions left over, we will be answering those questions on our website. And also, I guess a lot of you will have the same type of questions. So these general questions, we'll put them up on our website and people will be able to learn more about the project as a result of those. And lastly, we live in the world of social media, Twitter, Facebook, and so forth. And we truly encourage people to share your experiences of the scheme and of a Carneddau on the social media. That's a very powerful platform. We can contact the world through that. And if you use the hashtag #CarryCarneddau when you tweet, and that'll be very, very interesting and useful. So on those few words, and I'm sure you've heard plenty from me actually for now, I'll now hand you over to see a video which celebrates a Carneddau. So we'll go over to the video, and this is hot off the press, as they say. You're the first people to see this video, and I hope you'll enjoy.
Y Carneddau, tirwedd amrywiol ac arbennig, ardal o hanes helaeth a harddwch eithriadol. O'r dyffrynnoedd i Gopaon, Carned Dafydd a Charnedd Llywelyn, mae'r dirwedd wedi siapio gan natur a phobl. Mae'r ardal yn gartref i rhywogaethau prin ac eiconig fel y frân gwisgoch a merlod y Carneddau, math o ferlod unigryw i'r Carneddau. Mae enw'r Carneddau yn deillio o'r Carneddau cynhanesyddol ar lawer o'r Copaon a'r Criba. Ynghyd â grymoedd natur, cafodd yr ardal iconig hon ei siapio gan bobl, trwy goedwigaeth, amaeth, diwydiant a theithio. Mae yna dystiolaeth o weithgaredd dynol ers yr oes haearn, ac mae'r olion hyn o bwys rhyngwladol.
I feel a very lucky man to be working and living all my life on the Carneddau. From the ponies to the sheep to the wildlife to the flora and fauna, we live in one of the most amazing places in the world, and we are very fortunate to have this on our doorstep and to bring my family up in such a beautiful place.
Mae'r Carneddau yn rwla hollol unigryw yn y byd, dweud y gwir. Ac i mi, yn bwysicaf oherwydd mae'n rwla lle nes i gychwyn y blas ac y tynfa o gynna fi at ddringo. Ac wedyn, dweud y gwir, drwy mywyd i gyd, mae wedi bod yn rhan helaeth o sut mae'n heulu di wneud bywoliaeth a, dweud y gwir, rhan o sut dwi'n wneud bywoliaeth dyddiau yma.
Un o'r pethau hyfryd am ardal y Carneddau ydy'r holl enwau lleoedd anhygol sgynnon ni. So, Cwm Caseg, Pen Llithrig y Wrach, Moel Faban, Carnedd Gwenllian. A mae'r enwau yma i gyd yn golygu rhywbeth, dydy. Dim jyst i ni'n lleol, ond hefyd yn herma treftadaeth a hanes Cymru. Felly mae eisiau dathlu hynna yn sicr fel rhan o brosiect y Carneddau.
Unfortunately, climate change, changing land use, invading species, grazing levels, human impact are all presenting some serious pressures on this fragile landscape. The biodiversity of the Frith and the mountain has been challenged. Traditional knowledge, place names and the stories that connect the people with the land are in danger of being lost.
Dros y 4 mlynedd nesaf, mi fydd cynllun partneriaeth tirwedd y Carneddau yn annog pobl i ddarganfod, gofalu a dathlu y Carneddau. Da ni'n ddiolchgar iawn i gronfa treftadaeth loteri genedlaethol. Oherwydd y cefnogaeth yma, mi fydd y partneriaeth yn gallu hyrwyddo dyfodol positif i'r Carneddau trwy gynyddu dealltwriaeth a mwynhad o'r hanes, traddodiadau diwylliannol a bywyd gwyllt yr ardal.
Caru Carneddau.
Gwych iawn.
Brilliant. And it was worth waiting for. Can I thank everybody who was part of developing the video? This phenomenal video, Caru'r Carneddau, and can I thank Laurie especially and all the team actually for their work and for those who contributed in various ways. And I'm sure that there are many of you who contributed to that video who are here on the webinar. So thanks again. One of the points mentioned in the video was the need to safeguard history, heritage, place names and so forth. These things that make Wales unique in many ways, but also which makes a Carneddau unique. And I'm very pleased now to say that we have the poet Ieuenctid here, and Ieuan is going to talk about the cultural heritage of a Carneddau as a native of Bethesda and as someone who's interested in place names since many years. Who better than Ieuan to talk to us about this? Ieuan, over to you. Well, thank you very much for the invitation to start off with. It goes without saying that the Carneddau landscape has contributed to forming the character of the society that has lived in this part of Snowdonia throughout the centuries. Traces from the New Stone Age, the Bronze Age, and the Iron Age testify to the continuous existence of the communities that have been particularly linked to this mountain land. Its lakes, its rivers, its rocks, and its natural resources, its vegetation, and wildlife. This area encompasses the vast majority of the Old Hundred of Arllechwedd, the royal seat of the Welsh kings and princes of Gwynedd. The mountain land has been a means of social existence in these areas throughout the ages. It has been an essential and integral part of the life of the farming community from a very early age, before the arrival of the slate quarrymen, and then those who quarried set stones, and then those who mined for copper, sulphur, brimstone, arsenic, lead, ochre, whetstones, magnesium, rock crystals and quartz. At the same time, the leisure traditions and practices of the society were at one with the mountain land. the trading between parishes, fishing, the collecting of turf, family gatherings to relax beyond the mountain gates, the wandering to notice nature, and scaling the summits to enjoy the scenery. Because of this old, sustaining relationship, over many generations, a deep and particular respect for the landscape was nurtured among the residents towards the landscape. And this essential link, this deep historical relationship, continues in many respects. Yes, the original society was a mountain society, and that's where the old settlements were, and the early small fields, the hill forts of the Britons. Then the earliest churches, the llanau of the saints, were on the slopes, and the medieval hafodau, the upland farms, from Foti Lowry Galed to Hafod o Gorswen, the keeping of cattle in herds on the mountains, then the subsequent tending of sheep, with flocks even traversing the summits themselves. It's no wonder that we are comfortable in the mountains. You can't feel lonely there, even when you're by yourself. There's solitude, yes, but not loneliness. For those of us born and bred in the Carneddau area, the mountain land was and is our domain, our libart, as we called it, and libart from liberty in English. It's an appropriate name for the mountain land. Free and open land was available, and for us as young lads, it was a huge back garden for us, an open and expansive area extending from Gerland to Llanbedr y Cennin, from the River Ogwen up to River Conwy. The area of mountains and valleys from Penarol Ewen to Talafan, from Cwm Eigiau to Cwm yr Afon Goch. It was also an area of lakes, from Llyn Anafon to Llyn Ogwen, from Llyn Coch to Llyn Geirionydd. The Carneddau has not only been a prominent physical feature for the communities of these places for many centuries, but also part of their culture. The external and internal relationship between us and our habitat, our area, is a common experience, and it's a universal truth. As V.S. Naipaul, the late writer from Trinidad, said, he described the landscape of several countries and several continents in his volumes. He placed particular importance on the localized significance on the area of our growing up. There is no landscape like our childhood landscape, he said. This appears to be a self-evident truth, but he's saying that the landscape of childhood, the earth of our first habitat, means much more than landscape and environment. It's part of what we all are, an integral part of our identity. Society and its landscape are part of one fabric, the interpenetration of language and land. Culture is society's life in people's relation to one another and society's involvement in its environment. And the interpretation of place, its environs, is part of that. A rock and a soil and vegetation are completely meaningless without an eye and a mind and a heart to give them meaning and value and significance. And our culture and the memory contained in that culture and its order of values gives our cynefin, our habitats, meaning. It gives us roots, and it fosters in us respect and responsibility for the characteristics of our community and its natural environment. A central part of this cultural legacy is our literature. Poets and writers have used language creatively to respond to their social circumstances from period to period. And this ancient literary tradition testifies that life has been lived in this place, on this land, through the medium of Welsh continuously for 1,500 years, and continuously through the Brittonic language, the mother of the Welsh language, for 1,000 years before that. This is an amazing treasure to be proud of. literature and poetry in particular, because of the subtle and memorable means of expression, became a very effective means of expressing love towards one locality and emotional attachment to an area, and there were glowing examples of that. Sometimes aspects of the landscape itself was the subject of the poet or writer. Other times the community receives the attention, with the landscape as an influential background, either affecting the event or creating an atmosphere. As the poet minister John T. Job said, and I'll read this in Welsh, he expresses his feelings when leaving the Carneddau area in a poem entitled Farewell to Eryri, and he refers to Cwm Pen Llafar, between the two large Carneddau, Carnedd Dafydd and Carnedd Llywelyn, that commemorates our princes. The poet captured succinctly in one short and simple verse the spirit of the relationship between the individual and the mountain, a verse that has been memorized by a good number of the residents of Dyffryn Ogwen. Farewell I Cwm Pen Llafar, a'i heddwch di ystŵr, lle nad oes lef, ond ambell fref, adew, a sŵn y dŵr. Just for you to hear the rhythm and sound of that. Another aspect of this rich local and national heritage is our place names, a specific feature that gives meaning to the mountain land. Yes, place names are a legacy that always engenders pride and a keen interest among us. Yes, we were privileged with a varied landscape, and topographical names contribute to our understanding of the history of the land, the history of the language, and history of the communities, reflecting the nature of the geology and the formation of the landscape, the vegetation, the creatures, and the life of the old society. Where would you find more mesmerizing names than these? Nant y Gilfach Felen and Braich y Llyngwm, Afon Caseg and Ffrwd a Boles, Pant y Mynach and Cadair Ceridwen, Craig y Tri Marchog a Chwm y Bedol Arian, Bwlch y Ddeufaen and Bwlch y Clawdd Llwyd, Pen yr Helgi Ddu and Pen Llithrig o Wrach, yr Ysgolion Duon and Bryniau Melynion, Craig y Benglog and Crib y Grimog Lem, Cefn Maen Amor and Cefn yr Orsedd, Castell y Geifr and Clogwyn yr Eryr, Braich y Prisgyll and Pant y Griafolen. Names to be kept and safeguarded, and distorting or translating Welsh place names and replacing them with English names is a violation of our identity, and they should be safeguarded through statutory protection. In considering the cultural heritage of the Carneddau area, and that worthy tradition that continues in the face of threats from many directions, we can only be proud of the riches of what we have inherited. The Carneddau Landscape Plan is an opportunity for us to protect and strengthen Welsh life, promoting the protection of the natural environment and further enriching the legacy to be passed on to future generations. Thank you very much for listening, and all the best for the enthusiastic team that pertain to this scheme. Well, brilliant. Thank you very much, Ian, for those brilliant words, for the opportunity to be able to hear about the rich literature and the vibrant cultural legacy that belongs to this special area. And I just want to echo what you said. Yes, we need to safeguard these place names forever. So now we'll have another video, and this is a presentation. There'll be two people in the video who you'll know, I'm sure. Tara Leanne Hall. She's the first one in the video, and she is an outdoor swimmer. Maybe not now when the water's cold, but she has volunteered and does volunteer a lot with the Snowdonia Society. So Tara, then after Tara, we'll have Gareth Wyn-Jones. Gareth and his family have been farming on the slopes of the Carneddau since centuries. They farm on the tops above Llanfairfechan. If you were listening on Radio Cymru this morning, Dylan Jones described Gareth Wyn-Jones as the emperor of a Carneddau, but we know, of course, that the Carneddau is very close to Gareth's heart, and the area is very close to Tara's heart. So here's a video of Tara and Gareth.
Helo, enw fi di Tara Leanne Hall. Da ni yma heddiw uwch ben Llyn Cwmorthyn yn Blaenau Ffestiniog. Ges i fy magu yn Blaenau a di dod yn ôl couple o flynyddoedd yn ôl ar ôl fyw i ffwrdd a trafeilio. I fi, mae'r byd naturiol a awyr agored yn hynod o bwysig. Mae di helpu gwreiddio fi nôl yn yr ardal, helpu fi cymdeithasu fo bobl, helpu fi gwthio fy hun mewn wahanol ffyrdd. Dwi'n treulio rhan fwyaf amser fi tu allan. Dwi'n nofio yn yr llynnoedd a'r afonydd trwy'r blwyddyn. Dwi'n cerdded y mynyddoedd, dwi'n dringo'r creigiau. Felly i fi, mae'r byd naturiol a'r awyr agored yn bwysig iawn. A dyna pam nes i gychwyn gwirfoddoli. Dwi'n meddwl, os mae'n rhoi gymaint iddo fi, dwi'n gorfod rhoi rhywbeth yn ôl iddo fo hefyd. So dwi'n gwirfoddoli efo'r Snowdonia Society. Dwi wedi gwneud gymaint o bethau efo nhw. Dwi wedi plannu coed, dwi wedi torri rhododendrons, dwi wedi helpu creu llwybrau newydd fyny'r mynyddoedd. Felly mae'r sgiliau da chi'n datblygu efo nhw yn anhygoel. Mae'r pobl da chi'n cwrdd yn dysgu chi gymaint amdano ardal, am yr hanes, am planhigion, am y moroedd, am y llynnoedd. Felly mae'n creu perthynas gry efo'r byd naturiol amgylch ni, a dwi'n meddwl dyna pam bod o'n bwysig iawn annog pobl ifanc i gwirfoddoli a creu opportunities iddyn nhw. Dwi'n meddwl pobl ifanc ydi dyfodol ni, a y mwy da ni'n gallu creu'r opportunities yma iddyn nhw, a helpu nhw creu perthynas efo ardal nhw, maen nhw'n mwy tebygol o gwarchod y byd naturiol amgylch nhw. Felly ia, a diolch yn fawr am yr opportunity yma i siarad heddiw yma. Dwi off am dip bach yn y llyn wan, bydd o'n oer iawn dwi'n siŵr, ond ia, hwyl am y tro.
My name is Gareth Wyn-Jones. I'm a hill farmer here at Tyn Llwyfan, Llanfairfechan. And we're just at the bottom of the Carneddau mountain range. And we have grazing rights for sheep and for ponies on the amazing Carneddau Mountains. It's been part of my life. I love the place, and I'm a big believer in environmentally friendly farming and protecting the wildlife and the flora and fauna we have up here. And the Carneddau are very unique because it has something that nowhere else has, and that is the Carneddau ponies. And my family has been watching after them since records began in the parish over 370 years. The ponies have been running semi-feral here since the Celtic times, and they have a fantastic relationship with the land and the way they graze, which is very conservationist, and as well it's very good for attracting wildlife like the chough. And it's very, very nice to see so many chough back up here on the Carneddau, and the grouse as well are coming back, and for the first time in my lifetime there is a red kite flying above Llanfairfechan, which is amazing to see. And I think we have to protect these creatures. We have to protect the way that we're farming as well. So working in collaboration with others is an important part of how to go forward, and I'm very pleased to say that we'll be working together with the Carneddau project, the lottery project, and as part of the grazing society as well, we work very hard to make sure that we're grazing the land in a sustainable and very friendly way, an environmentally friendly way. So let's all come together and talk about making sure we secure a future for wildlife, for farming and for the communities in the local area of the Carneddau mountain range. Diolch yn fawr iawn.
Diolch i Tara a Gareth, geiriau arbennig yma yna.
Thank you to Tara and Gareth for those special words. Now it's an opportunity for you to be able to meet those people who will be doing the work from day to day. So the project team, and they'll be introducing themselves in a couple of minutes, and they'll be explaining some of the things that will be happening through the scheme over the next few years. And to start us off on the journey, I'm going to hand you over to Marianne Pye and Becca Roberts. So Marianne and Becca, over to you. Thanks, Professor. So I'll just start by giving us a bit of background regarding who we are and where we'll be operating before talking about some of the projects and the exciting opportunities to take part in these. So the partnership includes 23 partners altogether, and they represent a mix of specialist organisations, agricultural, the outdoor sector, environmental, and community development groups. They've all come together to realise this scheme and to create a positive future for the Carneddau. So the area's scheme extends over 200 kilometres squares from the Ogwen Valley in the west to the Conwy Valley in the west, and between the A5 in the south and the A55 in the north. And the landscape includes not only the mountains, but the pastures and the communities. And what you'll see here is the 13 wards that will directly benefit from this scheme. So the vision of the scheme is to open doors and to create deeper links between these communities and this phenomenal landscape they have on their doorstep. I think it's fair to say that this lockdown period has emphasised how important our square mile is. It has for me personally anyway, but we can't just take these places for granted because we still face huge challenges like climate change, on rare habitats, or Brexit on agricultural communities, which actually play a significant part in the culture of the landscape. So there are great opportunities through this scheme to build on the enthusiasm and the appreciation that's out there through enabling the area's communities to discover, to safeguard and to celebrate the Carneddau, and to ensure that this legacy is transmitted to future generations. So the main aims of the scheme are to protect rare habitats and species, nationally important archaeological remains and distinctive landscape features, to keep the traditions, knowledge and place names alive, to promote sustainable land use practices, and to help as broad an audience as possible to discover, record, conserve and celebrate the Carneddau. And it's important to say as well, by doing this, we'll also ensure that we will sustain the number of visitors within sustainable numbers. So the project has been structured into themes and projects, and intertwined there are engagement aspects, communication aspects and grant aspects which will enable us to realise the main vision. So I'll just give you a quick taster of some of these projects. Cylchdaith y Carneddau. So Cylchdaith, a low-level circular route using existing rights of way. So the intention here is to make the lower slopes of the Carneddau more accessible to local communities by targeting specific sensitive interventions, so things like upgrading gates, signage and so forth. The aim is to make sure that more local people are aware of these pathways, and they'll also have an opportunity to develop skills and confidence in the outdoors. They can take part in physical activities, and they'll also learn about some of the unique features of the landscape. There's the water cycle scheme, which includes low density tree planting along water courses, as well as improving peatland in the high uplands. An important result here will be to safeguard biodiversity and to improve habitats, and hopefully also to reduce floods. Then we've got the Carneddau Voices and Place Names, which is an oral history project. This is about sharing stories, memories, and information about the farming communities of y Carneddau. The heritage of a Carneddau has been created through lived experiences, traditions, and place names, and farming has changed significantly over the past few decades. So now is the time to record the experiences of farmers of these changes that have taken place. So I've just given you a very quick taster of some of these projects that'll be part of this. There's much more information available on our website, but now I'm going to hand you over to Becca Roberts, our Community Engagement Officer, who'll be talking a bit more about opportunities to take part. So over to you, Becca. Brilliant, thanks Marianne. There will be a great number of ways that people can take part in these schemes as individuals or organisations. One exciting thing we'll be doing is we'll be commissioning engagement packages to ensure that the scheme responds to opportunities as they crop up during the project's life. We will encourage local providers to make a bid or a request for these work packages and to think about engaging with people in the communities, especially with young people. Also, we'll have a volunteering scheme available throughout the scheme. Volunteering is a central part of all of these projects within the scheme, so there will be a great broad choice of training and volunteering opportunities over the next few years. Things like bird watching, recording recollections, dry stone walling, tree planting, photography sessions, and fixing footpaths. Another important aspect we'll be working on is the school scheme. Schools have already acknowledged that spending time in the open air is a vital aspect of pupils' well-being, so we are really eager to add value to the experiences and education of pupils in the Carneddau area. So our aim is to help teachers to develop confidence, to design and lead outdoor learning opportunities by commissioning providers who specialize in these fields. Also, we want to add value to resources that are already existent locally. So we want to do this by ensuring that teachers know what's available to them. So for example, the Penmaen Mawr Museum, or maybe the tree planting sessions offered by Partneriaeth Ogwen, and many, many more things too. The project will also appoint and fund 3 environmental conservation apprentices for 12 months each. They'll be working part-time with the staff of the National Park, with the wardens mainly, and also part-time with the wardens of the National Trust. This will be a great opportunity for young people to learn new skills, gain qualifications, and foster experience in fields like tree planting, path maintenance, vegetation clearing, and maintenance of moorlands and upland areas. Also, there will be community grants available next year for not-for-profit organisations within the communities that are in the map that Marianne put up earlier on. These will be available for small projects, things like events, buying equipment, printing, art projects, engagement events, anything really, as long as the idea supports people in our communities to explore, safeguard, or promote y Carneddau. And the intention is to help not-for-profit organisations within y Carneddau to form fun, innovative and different projects to what's already available within the scheme. So if you keep an eye open for those. So the final aim of this project is to create an environment where communities can celebrate their home area, and we've created many ways for organisations and individuals to engage with the scheme so that communities have a voice in what's done. So please keep in touch with us by Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, go to the website, join the news feed, get the quarterly newsletter if you want to discuss anything further, if you want to invite us to make a presentation to your group or club, get in touch with us over email. And if you live in Conwy, go to the Facebook page to take part in our most recent competition. It closes tomorrow. And for everybody else, keep an eye open on our Instagram for next week, and you can win an exclusive print created by a local young artist. And that's it. Thanks. Brilliant. Thanks, Marianne. Thanks, Becca. Very, very useful regarding what's in the pipeline. Very exciting. So we've been asking you to jot some questions down and to send them in. And we'll have a few minutes now to discuss some of these questions. Whilst we just try and get some order, I'll ask the team to present themselves. So you've heard Marianne and Becca, but I'll hand you over to Geraint, I think, and then we'll select some questions. So yes, thanks, Professor. So quickly, I'm Marianne Pai. I'm the project manager. I live in Dyffryn Ogwen, right by the Carneddau, so it's a very special area for me. So I'm responsible for supporting the team and the partnership that will be delivering the project. I'm Becca Roberts. I'm the engagement officer, the community engagement officer. I live in Bethesda, and I'm the person to talk to if you live in the community surrounding a Carneddau and if you want to discuss ideas further. And I'll make sure that the communities will be a central part of this scheme. And lastly, I'm Geraint Williams. I'm the Natural Resources and Agricultural Officer for the scheme. So if you have any questions regarding agriculture and that type of stuff, then I'll try and answer. So without further ado, Professor, do you have a question for us? Yes, I do. Thank you to you three. The first question from Stephen Carter. And I'll ask it as it's worded. Any plans to carry out rewilding or other changes in use and vegetation? That's the question to Marianne, please. Well, thank you very much for that question. I think it's important to say that people have shaped this landscape since thousands of years. So it's part of our inheritance and legacy, and it's part of what makes the Carneddau so special. So I think the way we'll be managing the land and safeguarding those characteristics, people who live on the land and work on the land have to be part of how we manage that land. So we're looking at how to work with the communities and to encourage ways to use the mountain which safeguards the indigenous habitats and biodiversity. and also we want to celebrate the area's cultural legacy. Okay, thank you, Marianne. The next question is anonymous to Geraint. What is the practical work you'll be doing? There's quite a few things through the entire scheme. So from my part, there are simple schemes, things like grants to plant new hedges, to things like creating new habitats. We can also work on land management schemes run by Natural Resources Wales, and it's about getting the balance right between production and the wildlife. And this is what's been done since many, many years, actually. In addition to that, there'll be some work done on invasive species. So this has been identified. There are some invasive species that are dangerous to the fragile habitats we have in the Carneddau, so some work will be done on that now. Thanks, Geraint. So now a question from David Appleton. This is to Marianne.
Increasing numbers of visitors to Yr Wyddfa and the Glyderau, there will be a corresponding increase in numbers of walkers, etc., to the Carneddau as people look to avoid the crowds. All those who begin walking on established paths become more confident in their hill skills. Marianne.
I'll answer the question in English. Thank you very much for that question. And I think it's a fair question given the experience that we've seen over the last 6 months or so in Snowdonia. We've seen a big increase in the number of visitors that are coming to this place, and like we mentioned earlier, I think the lockdown has highlighted how lucky we are to live in a place that's so incredible. So it's not a surprise that people want to come and visit these amazing places. But of course that comes with challenges, and the local communities in the area have really experienced that. And so I think it's fair that they do have concerns, and we understand that there will be therefore concerns that similar things might happen in the area. What I will say is that one thing, a message that we want to really put out there through the scheme is that this is an area that is sensitive to human pressures. Like sensitive habitats like mountain heath that you get on the ridges and summits are very sensitive. And that needs to be sort of understood and respected. So I think there's an opportunity through this scheme, that we can sort of spread those messages that help people understand and respect the environment. Doesn't matter who they are, whether they're visitors or whether they're local to the area, and hopefully that'll then engender that kind of connection that we really want to create between people and the landscape. That these places are really worth looking after. So, we want to encourage responsible enjoyment of the outdoors.
Diolch, Marianne. Diolch am y cwestiwn.
Marianne, thanks for the question. The next question is from Becca. It's a question we've received beforehand, before the event actually. Becca, what difference will the project make to local communities? Well, as Marianne has already said, the intention of the scheme really is to ensure that communities understand and safeguard the Carneddau more and more over the next few years. We want to encourage communities to understand their history, landscape, nature, and the way of life on the mountains, and to enjoy this and to understand this as they develop and grow. When I was young, I was sitting in Ysgolion looking out through the window on a Carneddau, and I didn't really understand the story and the history behind the mountains. I just was looking out of the window, and now I want to make sure that everybody who looks at those mountains develop and that they're able to enjoy those mountains completely. So that's how the communities will be able to benefit from this. Great. Thanks, Becca. And the last question, time has beaten us. I'm sorry. So another question to Marianne. Marianne.
Can never detract from the wild landscape, the sense of adventure, the need for self-reliance, and the natural beauty which characterise the Carneddau and give meaning to the hashtag Carneddau. That's from James.
Thank you, thanks for the question. I mean, I think I would just reiterate what I said earlier about how, I think any activities that we do through the scheme, particularly around the Cilchdaw project, will always at the heart of it have that engagement and communication about what makes this place special and why it's worth appreciating and looking after. And I think hopefully, if we can ensure that message is understood, that people will, appreciate that, that it is a sensitive area. It's a quiet area that you need to be sort of careful about how you interact with the environment. So simple things like remembering to close gates, keeping to the public footpath, parking sensibly, and keeping dogs on leads, that kind of thing. So I think we really want to make sure that it all goes hand in hand. We work together with communities, with the outdoor sector. We're all kind of sort of relaying the same sort of messages that it's really important to enjoy these places responsibly.
Great. Thanks, Marianne.
Thanks, Marianne. A clear message to finish off with there. Can I thank everybody for the questions? We haven't had an opportunity to go through them all, but we will be using these to create a frequently asked questions page, FAQs, on our website. So those of you who did ask a question and it wasn't answered, if you take a look at that website in a couple of days' time. So we're drawing to the end. We're a couple of minutes over time, but just a couple of things before winding up. Becca talked earlier on about following the scheme on social media. Use the hashtag #CaruCarneddau. There's a Twitter account, Instagram, if you like the page on Facebook. And of course, we'll have the website up, and that'll be a very interesting and useful place to keep in touch with one another. So on those few words, can I, on behalf of the entire team, thank you all for joining us today. Without people, the Carneddau, well, the Carneddau would lose something very important. The people are the heart of this scheme, actually, and cooperation is the intention from start to finish. So we're looking forward to cooperate with you, people from all backgrounds and ages and so forth, over the next few years. So I hope that you've learned more about the scheme over the past hour, and I'm looking forward to hear more as time ticks. But on behalf of the whole team, can I thank you once again for joining us, and enjoy the rest of your day. Thanks.